Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Prokop, live here in my studio in Coffee Bluff Plantation, and looking at the live weathercast for this Friday evening, February 17th. Let's start. We had some rain earlier today. That was a cold front pushing across the area, and as the front pushed on through, cooler air came in. Not much rain fell out of that. I only had 2/100 of an inch of rain here. But let's take a look at the uh, weather conditions for right now. And there we have it right there. The satellite imagery is still showing some clouds streaming across the area, but most of the heavier rains, or any of the rains really, have now moved off the coast. We've got some clearing weather conditions behind it right now. Looking at the closer view of the southeast satellite, we are seeing some breaks in the clouds and some patches of clouds still streaming across the area, but overnight eventually it will clear out. So I'm expecting a lot of sunny weather conditions for tomorrow on Saturday, but temperatures are going to be on the cooler side. We saw highs today in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Looking at the satellite forecast, cloud forecast, we're seeing the sky clearing out slowly throughout the night, and then by shortly before daybreak tomorrow morning, we should see clear weather conditions, and actually well before daybreak, and then throughout the day tomorrow we should see lots of sunny skies. Some more clouds will try to stream in across the area on Sunday, but these will be very thin clouds, and we should have fair to partly cloudy weather conditions to be associated with that. So let's take a look at the radars right now. Not much in the form of any precipitation showing up. It's all well east of us. But I wanted to show you the winds are still rather blustery at 15 to 25 miles per hour in many locations, and they're coming in from the northwest now, bringing in this colder air. We're still in the lower 50s to middle 50s in the coastal areas, but it drops as you go inland, and all the way up into the Atlanta metropolitan area, it's already down into the middle 30s. However, in the coastal areas of Georgia and South Carolina and southeastern Georgia, I'm not expecting any frost at night because of these winds. So even though temperatures could drop into the upper 30s and lower 40s, I'm not expecting any frost, which is good news because I have already started my garden. And we're going to talk about the garden coming up shortly. Looking at the forecast models, this shows high pressure moving into the region for Saturday, giving us that clear weather conditions. And then not much going on for the next several days. Now, up in the north, a big storm is brewing out in there, but that's not going to affect us at all. If anything, it's going to pump in some warm air across our area. This is for Wednesday sunset. And then as we go into Thursday, looks like a major winter storm for the upper Mississippi Valley and the northern plains and the middle and upper portions of the Great Lakes states. Ice storm there, blizzard conditions possible in northern Wisconsin, upper peninsula of Michigan, and then swinging back over into upstate New York. But as we go through time, that moves off to the northeast into Canada, cold air behind it, but most of that cold air stays well to our north. We're going to maybe chill down a little bit, but not much. We're going to stay at normal or above normal for the that period, and then temperatures back into above normal for our area. So what is normal? That's a good definition. Define normal. Normal right now is about 64 for the high, 44 for the low. By next week, it'll be a degree or so higher. The next week, 2 or 3 degrees higher than that. So speaking of that, let's take a look at the forecast temperatures. And for tonight, we're going to see those temperatures dropping after the upper 70s today. They're going to be dropping into the upper 30s to lower 40s by daybreak tomorrow, but it will be breezy and the air will be dry, so I'm not expecting any frost formation. But then the high temperature tomorrow, even with full sunshine, we're only going to be warming into the upper 50s. Some areas only middle 50s, and a little bit breezy, not as windy as it was today, but it'll feel cool if you're not in the direct sunshine. And then tomorrow night, temperatures are not going to drop that much in the lower 40s. And then going into Sunday, we're going to start warming back up into the 60s. Even some locations could see 70 degrees by Sunday. And then going into Monday and Tuesday, we're going to start warming up into the mid to upper 70s. And then by the middle of next week, we're going to be in the 80s. Possible record high temperatures for Thursday, with the high expected to be in perhaps the middle 80s. The record high is, I think, 84 degrees set back in 2019. Let's take a look at the conditions beyond that. The National Climate Prediction Center 6 to 10 day outlook, and we're seeing those temperatures. I hit the wrong button there. Let's try that again. We're seeing the temperatures to be averaging well above normal for our portions of southeastern Georgia and southern South Carolina. And then as we look ahead for the 8 to 14 day forecast, once again, above normal weather conditions for temperature wise for our area here. And as far as precipitation is concerned, it looks like we're going to be at or below normal. And normal's not all that much this time of the year, so that's well less than an inch of rain per week. Looking at the weather page, my weather and nature page, Pat, at savannahpat.name, you see it right above my head there. And looking at the 6-week weather outlook. An outlook is kind of like an average of what to expect for this time period for next week. Temperatures to be above normal. Normal high is 66 and 44 is normal low. And for week number 2, for the end of February, the very beginning of March, we're seeing the highs well above normal. 68 is normal high, so we should see upper 70s to lower 80s. And then continuing to be above normal for the middle of March, going into the March 17th, St. Patrick's Day time period, above normal and below normal rainfall, and then continue to be mild to slightly above normal for the end of March all the way to March 31st. So, yeah, if you're planting a garden, this is the time to think about that, because we could start planting the garden right now in many locations, particularly east of US 17 and east of Interstate 95. Let's take a look at the weather garden video, and there it is right there. Some of the tips here, I've already planted some Brussels sprout seeds. I started these in mid-January, and they've already germinated. And I'm going to be putting these in the ground shortly. You want to grow these cold crops in the cooler weather. Cold crops are like cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and so forth. Here are the cauliflower that I started in late January, already sprouted. I started them in the greenhouse, but I got them outside right now. Marigolds, Inca Gold. Oh, this is a beautiful marigold. I got those started already. And cucumbers, I started them in early February. They're beginning to sprout right now. Now, these Better Bush tomato plants, I started from seeds in late November, and I've been growing them in the greenhouse through December and January. I'm now taking them outside. And these bushes here, I cut from bushes from last summer, and they've been growing all winter long. Well, there's Grisabella, the feline. She's my supervisor in the garden. She comes out and checks, make sure everything is done well. These bilbergias, I wintered over, and they like the cooler weather. They're beginning to bloom right now. And then I also have other hanging baskets, cool weather flowers for the hanging baskets. And if you look at those white sweet alyssum, if we zoom in on that, you can almost smell how sweet they are. And they like the cooler weather. You'll be seeing a lot of these around the towns because they grow well in cool weather. Well, now's the time to plant potatoes. Pontiac Reds are a good one. Yukon Gold is another one. I planted these yesterday. They'll be up by the end of the month. And then also cool weather crops include lettuce. We've been eating off this butter crunch all January. And the head lettuce, I just planted that, and that'll be hopefully ripened by the middle of March to end of March. Now, over here is where I'm getting ready to plant my bush beans. I got green beans, they're good, but I got some wax beans. And oh my gosh, they are so good. I'm going to be starting those in 6-packs very shortly, and I'll be planting them in the garden for a first crop. And then when it warms up after that, I'll plant the seeds directly in the soil for a second crop of beans. Now, getting ready to plant those cauliflower and Brussels sprout plants in this area here, and I mix a lot of composted chicken manure and also composted cow manure along with some 10-10-10, and I mixed it up, and I also put in a lot of compost that I've been making in my garden over the last several last several months, last 12 months. There's Grisabella again, the supervisor. She likes to follow her gardener, that's me, and checking things out. So what about the daylilies? The daylilies are beginning to wake up right now, and I'll be fertilizing them shortly. And I like to fertilize them with a mixture of 12-4-8, a little bit higher on the nitrogen. And also I add in some milorganite, and that really helps with the daylilies. So with that, let's take a look at what's going on up in the sky. Have you been noticing two very bright stars in the western sky at sunset and right after sunset? You've been noticing these over the last couple of weeks. Let me get back here and bring it down. There we go. In the evening twilight, you've been seeing these two bright stars. They are actually two planets, the planet Jupiter and Venus. Now, Venus is getting brighter and rising higher up in the sky. Jupiter, on the other hand, is getting dimmer, even though it's still quite bright, and getting lower in the sky. Now watch what happens over time. This is tonight, February 17th. Tomorrow night, Venus is going to be a little bit closer to Jupiter. And then as we progress in time throughout the last 2 weeks in February, watch what happens on March the 1st. Right there, the two will be meeting in the sky with each other. Now, they won't be touching each other in actual reality. They're separated by about 500 million miles. But Jupiter will be continuing to sink lower in the sky as Venus becomes dominant in the evening sky. It'll certainly be known as the evening star. Now, if you go a little bit off to the north or off to the left of this, there's this constellation right over here, and that is known as Orion. And there it is in the darker sky there. Let me turn on some of the symbols here. You can see what's going on. There's Orion the Hunter there. And this very bright star is Betelgeuse. It's a red giant. Another red giant is over here in Taurus the Bull. It's called Aldebaran. And then you have this red object here. That's the planet Mars. Now Mars is not as bright as it was in the beginning portions of December, but it's still a rather bright star. It's brighter than these two, and these are quite bright itself. Now, if you go in this area here around the belt of Orion, right there, there's a little nebula there, and I think I got it right here. Let me see if I can bring it up. Let's see, pictures. Well, it didn't go. I'll bring them up over here. Hang on a second. Let me get these pictures for you. Oh well. Let me show you this picture here. This, well, this is it. There it is. That is Orion, the nebulosity in Orion. This is known as the Orion Nebula, and this is an area of new star birth. Heavens are still being created. These are brand new stars in here. They're less than a couple million years old compared to our sun, which is what, about 5 billion, 4.5 billion years old. These are only in the millions of years. They're very new. If you have a small telescope or binoculars, you can actually see this. It looks spectacular in a small telescope. And if you have any kind of telescope, just point it toward that direction, and you'll see this constellation, or not this nebula in the constellation of Orion. Here's another one nearby. Again, new star formation going on. This is called the Rosette Nebula. I wonder why. It looks like a rosette. Anyway, new stars being born right over in here. I can zoom in on that and take a look. There are the new stars being born. I took these pictures in my backyard, in the Heavenly Backyard Garden. I took this one just Monday night. A week ago, not 5 days ago, not even a week ago. But looking at the next picture here, this is the same picture, but using different color to map out the light that I recorded from the images. And it's called narrowband imaging. And once again, it shows a lot of detail that you can see there in the core and all around it and so forth. A lot of people like this blue color in the nebulosity. And it does show up in contrast with this gold around the edge. Just looks like a brand new star forming out, or stars forming out in that area. And speaking of stars, there's one with a lot of stars. This is not anywhere in our galaxy. This is another galaxy about 20 million miles away or so. maybe 12 million miles away, 12 million light years, not miles, 12 million light years. In other words, light traveling at 186,000 miles per second. It took about 12 million years just to get here. This is also known as Messier 82 or the Cigar Nebula. I also like to say it looks more like the exploding cigar nebula. And here's another galaxy here. This one is a famous galaxy called the Whirlpool Galaxy. And I took this picture again in the Heavenly Backyard Garden. And this one again is about 15 million light years away. There's another galaxy right there. Eventually is being swallowed up by this galaxy here, the Whirlpool Galaxy. This has about a quarter of a billion stars in there. A quarter of a trillion stars, about 250 billion stars. Now, speaking of galaxies, here's a picture, the same field of view of a multiple bunch of galaxies. This is known as Markarian's chain of galaxies. And all these bright objects here are galaxies containing billions of stars. And not millions, billions of stars. There's one galaxy just off the picture over here to the left, which contains about 1 trillion stars. So yeah, the heavens are just fascinating what's going on out there. And there is the comet that I took earlier this year. And let me zoom in on that. This is the comet 2022 E3 ZTF, Zwicky Transient Facilities. That facility is the one that discovered this comet in 2002. It just passed the Earth earlier this month and is now moving away. But one of the things I can show you on this is that the actual comet is moving, and well, anyway, it is moving away from our area. So going back to here, there I am. So there you have it. You got the weather turning cool this weekend, but it's going to be very nice for all of next week. A little breezy as well. Temperatures warming into the 70s on Monday and Tuesday, then in the 80s again for the rest of next week. And then you have the gardening, time to work in the gardens if you have that opportunity to grow a garden. Now is a good time to plant those cool weather crops. You don't want to plant them too late because they don't like the heat. All those broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts, cabbage, they don't like hot weather. And potatoes, they don't like the hot weather either. Now you can grow sweet potatoes in the summertime, but not red potatoes or white potatoes or gold potatoes. They like the cool weather, and now's the time to plant those. And then you have the sky above. This is a wonderful time of the year to look at the sky because temperatures are warming up. It's nice to get outside in the evening and look at those two giants over there in the western sky, Jupiter and Venus. Venus, definitely the evening star, and it's going to dominate the springtime months around here and around the world, as a matter of fact, with spectacular views. As I always like to close out with my astronomy channel, my other channel, it's called Heavenly Backyard Astronomy. The heavens are filled with majestic wonders, and they're all in the sky near you. So get out and enjoy the sky, look what's up there, and enjoy the weather that we're going to be having over the next several days. Until next week, or before, but most likely next week, I'll see you later right here on YouTube. Bye.